So you can make the argument that Lou Williams saved the Clippers season, because when Blake Griffin went down, everybody was thinking that they were just done. And then Lou, over the past couple months now, has had his best season of his career, as he's been a fantastic scorer, one of the best in the league, and some people believed he was even deserving of an all-star appearance. So when he agreed to a contract extension with the Clippers, I think we all expected it to be a bit higher than $24 million for 3 years, $8 million a season. Why is that? Why did Lou Williams, in such a good season he's having right now, get such a normal contract? Well, I think if we look back to the 2016 NBA free agency and the amount of teams with cap space at the moment and teams learning from their mistakes, I feel like we're entering a new era of NBA contracts where expected salaries are going to go back down to earth. When the salary cap jumped up, things got pretty ridiculous there for a moment, and I think Lou Williams' deal is a sign that things are relaxing a bit. Let me dive into what I mean. Look at Avery Bradley, okay? Lou Williams' teammate. He's on a 1-year contract. He will be a free agent after this season, unrestricted. He and his agent have said that he wants more than $15 million a season. Here's the thing. I think Bradley, similar to all of us, is used to or programmed to thinking that what happened in 2016 when the salary cap jumped up is what's going to happen in the NBA forever now. That's simply not the case. The amount of teams that actually have cap space after that offseason, with all the crazy contracts that were agreed upon, is really not that much. To the point where I would expect Bradley now to probably get somewhere around, 8 to 12, maybe $13 million in annual salary, which is a drastic difference from some other guys around Bradley's skill level who happen to just become free agents at the right moment. And there are quite a few names, and we're going to go over some of them, and I'm going to say how we got here. How did we get to this position where at one point Avery Bradley could have potentially gotten himself $20 million a season, and now he's going to be getting probably a little bit more than half than that, I would say. Well, let's go back to 2016, and the first name I want to talk about is Nicolas Batum. He and the Charlotte Hornets agreed to a contract in the 2016 offseason where he would be making $120 million over 5 years. Over $20 million a season for Nicolas Batum. Not a bad player, sure, but really? I think right now we see the Charlotte Hornets paying for the mistake of giving Batum that money. I mean, you could argue it wasn't a mistake because that was the status quo of the cap just soaring out of nowhere, right? But now with Charlotte, they're locked into salary. They have very little ways to actually improve their roster. I mean, hell, there were rumors that if Kemba Walker was going to get moved, they would want to put Nicolas Batum in the trade just so they could get some of that money off the books. I mean, they have no opportunities to get better as a team because they just have no salary to play with. And guys like Nicolas Batum becoming free agents in 2016, that's part of the reason. A lot of teams made moves like this. Another one would be also a small forward for you, Evan Turner of the Portland Trailblazers. $70 million for 4 years. Turner was a serviceable backup point guard for the Celtics. The Blazers signed him, and I actually liked the move at the time because it felt like he could be a ball handler and it would allow Dame and CJ to do more stuff off the ball. But Terry Stotts hasn't really done that with Turner. He's asked him to play in the corner a lot of the times, and if you're doing that, then he's just a total wash for you. But Portland's another team where they're okay. They're definitely better than Charlotte, but they have no money to play with whatsoever. They also gave Myers Leonard a decently generous contract in the summer of 2016 as well. 4 years at $41 million. Isn't that disgusting for Myers Leonard? We've entered a world where Lou Williams makes less money than this guy. But unfortunately, that's what happens when the cap just shoots up over 1 year rather than progressively going up over the span of like 3 or 4 years, you know? Mo Harkless is another guy that has the Trailblazers just locked into salary to where they really can't make many moves, as he's making about $10 million a season as well. I don't think these type of things are going to happen anymore. I think if Mo Harkless was a free agent this year, especially given the season that he's having, $5-6 million a season probably, which was kind of what it was before 2016. Hell, I mean, Alan Crabb, the Blazers had to trade him, an actual good piece for them, a good shooter. They had to trade him to the Nets for Andrew Nicholson, and then they bought out Nicholson just so they could knock down their salary. When was Alan Crabb signed? Oh yeah, in 2016, because the Nets shot the price up. Why is D'Angelo Russell on the Nets? Because the Los Angeles Lakers gave Timofey Mozgov way too much damn money over like a 4-year span. They had to include Russell in the deal just to make the trade work. Of course, they also want to pull some NBA Illuminati stuff and get LeBron James in their team. But, you know, if you never signed Mozgov, you might not have had to trade Russell. Then we look at Luol Deng, who the Lakers also signed to a very generous contract. I understand that you want to get a veteran piece to help out your young guys, you know, get a small ball 4 in there as well. But they also signed him for 4 years at $72 million. That's just what it was in 2016, man. If you wanted yourself a guy who at that time was actually pretty okay, that you had to overpay and then some. And I think Julius Randle's situation with the Lakers has even been affected by this, because he was in trade talks for a while for them, because if they wanted to move any of their larger contracts, they probably thought to themselves, well, if the team really likes Randle, then maybe they'll take him on, and then they'll also take on Luol Deng or whoever's contract as well. That's what happens when you have bad contracts on your books, is you have to give up guys that you actually should be keeping because of their talent, you know? Now we got to get to Chandler Parsons, who already had some injury history before the Grizzlies took him on. I mean, I assume they ran some physicals because the Mavericks didn't like what they saw in his knee. I mean, 4 years, $94 million for a guy who hasn't really been able to stay on the floor consistently for Memphis. I mean, what does Parsons get if he becomes a free agent right now? I mean, the Atlanta Hawks did themselves a disservice because they had to sign Kent Bazemore to $70 million for 4 years, and I mean, to be fair, like, Bazemore, not a bad player, and again, this is what you had to do at this time. You think a good team wouldn't love to give you, like, some sort of draft compensation for Bazemore? Like, he's a decent athlete, he plays some defense, and he could probably hit some open three-pointers for you. I'm sure OKC would be glad to take him on. There's no way they're getting him with that contract. That's the old NBA, and we're going to be feeling the effects of it for at least a few more seasons until these contracts run out. But now if we can get to some of the teams in this upcoming free agency who actually have cap space, who are actually like good teams. One, there's the Philadelphia 76ers. And it'll be interesting to see where they could go. They have around $70 million committed to their books. And I've even seen some crazy things about LeBron James that I don't think will happen. But they also have to make a decision on JJ Redick, you know? I could picture him re-signing for, I don't know, somewhere between $7 to $11 million for the next few seasons to just be a spot shooter for them. And there's only a couple other teams. There's the Utah Jazz, who are lingering around $90 million or so, which really isn't that much in terms of cap space. And even then, they need to re-sign Dante Exum. Now, it's probably not going to take too much, but that knocks them down as well. And then the only other team that's actually like worth talking about next season that has cap space is the Houston Rockets, but that's before they re-sign Chris Paul. That's the effects of the 2016 free agency, is there's like no good teams with actual money to sign some big name players. Now, could they make trades and dump money off their books? Of course they can, but it's going to be very interesting to see what some of these upcoming free agents make. I mean, in the case of Paul George, it's a little more obvious. It's either he re-signs with the Thunder or he goes to the Lakers, and LA being the team that has by far and away the most amount of money to play with in free agency. But a guy like DeAndre Jordan, we all thought it was a shoo-in that he was going to decline his player option and go for the most amount of money possible. Well, now it's either he accepts the player option, and makes $24 million this season, or he could potentially get more than that, but he would have to go to a team like the Phoenix Suns. I mean, like, what do you want to do, DeAndre? You know, do you want to get paid? Do you want to keep winning? He might be better off accepting the player option and then reassessing the situation a year from now. And that's because any sort of team with respectability is just so locked into contracts, and a lot of them are because of what happened just a couple of years ago. So, I think Lou Williams agreeing to a $24 million contract over 3 seasons for the Clippers, I think it's a sign of things to come. I think we've gone past the stage where players are just getting overpaid like crazy, and now we're actually seeing guys potentially get underpaid. We'll just have to see what happens once free agency hits.